Welcome back to today's episode of Unapologetic Living. My name is Elizabeth Elliott, and I am your hostess. As we enter in, today is December 31st. We are entering into 2026. And so for many, we consider this a new year. Um, and I wanted to talk a little bit about decluttering. So I wrote a book in 2020 called 29 Days, the Self-Love Leap. And every day there are some practices in order to live your best self and just learn to nurture and take care of yourself so that you can cultivate more self-love. Because when we're making decisions that don't support us, it's difficult to find reasons to love ourselves. And so when we start to make those decisions that are loving towards our mind, our body, and our spirit, then it is easier to, again, cultivate the self-love. One of the days I include a whole, you know, ritual around decluttering. And so that's just one of the days, one of the 29 practices in my book, 29 Days, the Self-Love Leap, which is available on Amazon. But I like to begin January, and this, I don't know if this is my eighth year, but I've been doing this for a minute, maybe since 2000. And the first year I did this, I was living on Lowell Avenue. Not that that makes sense to you guys, but I can figure out potentially what year that I started this declutter um, ritual, your annual ritual, based on when I was living at that particular house. And I can't think of it offhand. I want to say my son was going into his eighth grade year, and he would have been, oh gosh, I can't even think. 2000 and anyway, needless to say, he would have been maybe 14. He was going on 24 in May. So let's say 9 or 10 years, I've been regularly committing to my January declutter. And a lot of that is birthed from the fact that so many things come in, we receive and are gifted items, and then we've accumulated items and objects over the prior year. Many of them we no longer need. Maybe they don't get used or worn, or we've accumulated multiples. And so it's a great way to sort of pare down and simplify. And the practice is a daily practice through the entire month of January. So on January 1, you get rid of, you toss, you donate one item. On January 2nd, it's two items. On January 3rd, it's three items. On January 4th, it's four items all the way to the January 31st. And when you add all those numbers up, you have eliminated 496 items or objects from your home. The first couple of years I did this, were relatively easy because I had accumulated a lot of things. There were items I needed to go through from when my children were small that I was hanging on to, photographs, artwork, um, just junk and old toy bins that we didn't need anymore, old pencils and crayons and markers that the kids didn't play with or had dried out. So, it doesn't have to be big things. You're not getting rid of 496 big things. You're not getting rid of 31. You may find you've got 31 bum markers in your art bin in the basement that you no longer need, and that can count for January 31st. But over the course of the month, it adds up to 496 things, and it does feel lighter. It also gives you an opportunity to look at the stuff that you have in your home and to evaluate it. Does this still serve me? The first time I started to look at some of my clutter was after I had read Marie Kondo's The Joy of, oh gosh, Tidying Up. I think that's the book. And that might not be it. The Magic of Tidying Up. So don't quote me, but if you look up Marie Kondo, you will definitely be able to find some of her work. And there are various different methods to organizing and decluttering. That's just the one that I attached myself to because my sister introduced me to it. I had moved, unfortunately, more times than I would like to admit after my kid's father and I split up. We lived in, I don't even want to go through them, but if you do have my book, it's mentioned. I'd have to go back, but it was multiple times. We've lived in several different houses, and we went from, a four-bedroom house with a basement and a family of four to a family of three, and a smaller house and a smaller house and a smaller house to now where we live in 937 square feet. So we had to downsize and we had to eliminate and we had to declutter. And when, you have a family, a lot of times you do end up with multiples. You have, three red nail polishes and one of them's dried out and it just sits there in the bottom of that bathroom cabinet and you just keep adding to it. And so you realize, I realized I didn't need to have so many things. I could live with less. And it has been of tremendous value to my life because I have less to take care of. I have less clothes to fold. I have less shoes to put away, right? And so I have less clutter to tackle on a daily basis because all of that takes up my time. So now my time has been freed up to um, that I can utilize in different ways. Maybe I could take a dance class, or maybe I could spend some more time hula hooping, or I could take an art class or pottery class, or and I free up my time from having to declutter and clean and tidy all the time because I have less things to do, then I have more time for me. And then I can cultivate again practices that nurture my mind, body, and spirit. And so one of the things that Marie Kondo suggests is to look at the things in your home. And she's got her own method to her madness, but ask each item. And she has a way in which she does it, where you pile everything in one room, you go in order of which rooms to tackle or which items to tackle. I don't necessarily do it that way. You can. I want you to find something that works for you, but maybe you do start with the room. Maybe you start with the kitchen because I know like we bought some new knives this year and we're going to be going through the kitchen drawer and eliminating those knives that are dull or no longer work that well. That's just one example. Maybe you've got some Tupperware where you have the bottom, but you don't have the lid. I'm getting rid of that shit. Like that's going. If it doesn't work together and fit into my life or fit together or have a fit, then it's out. And it can be difficult sometimes to let those things go because you're like, oh, I might be able to use it or I can throw ceramic on it. That's fine. Whatever works for you. However, um, it's less frustrating when you go and grab that Tupperware out and only to realize like, oh, I don't have a lid for this one. So now, I've got to come up with a different plan to store and refrigerate my soup or whatever. So one of the things that I noticed is that every time I moved, I was taking some of the same boxes, the same shit, the same stuff. And some of that stuff were these coins that my I had been given. And sometimes the items in our home are stuff we've been given to us by people who found joy in the item that they gave us. They liked it. It brought them joy. It was a hobby of theirs, but then they gift it to you, and it may or may not be your hobby or your thing. And so I was given these coins, and all they did was sit in a box since I was like 8 years old because was giving them year after year these coins. And I would take them with me to all of these different 10 or 12 moves sitting in this box. And one of the questions that Marie Kondo suggests asking is, Does this spark joy? Does this elicit joy? And if it doesn't, take the time to thank it for its value and purpose in your life and then donate it. Now, and I want to suggest not gifting it away to somebody else because that's often what can happen is we're going to gift it away because we feel guilty giving it away, but then we're kind of dumping that feeling onto the next, that baggage onto the next person we've gifted it to. So really be conscientious. If it's a gift you think that somebody else would really love, not a gift that you just, oh, I'm feeling bad about giving this because Aunt Aunt Jolene gave me this and blah, 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 then that's not the reason to be giving it away. You need to either donate. Well, in my case, I took my coins and a couple other things. I went to the numismatic exchange. They were like, this is what we're going to give you in dollar and cents amount. I took the dollars and cents and I had a tattoo tattooed on my body because guess what? It brought me joy. I had been looking and wanting a tattoo. I finally knew what I was going to get, where I was going to get it. And very intentionally, I went and got this tattoo uh, inked on my body. So, and that brought me joy. So this gift that my grandparents had given me now did bring me joy because I happened to be able to exchange this one for money. And I was able to do something with it that I really wanted to do. But I could have used that money for a number of other things that would have brought me joy. So I want you to think about the items in your house. Do they truly elicit joy, or are you hanging on to them for other reasons? Are you hanging on to them because you feel bad because somebody gave this item to you, or that it's been, held in the family for years and you just can't seem to part with it, but you don't really love it. It's really just sitting in your closet or your attic or wherever it is. Why are you really hanging on to it? And would it better serve you to just let it go? Because in some ways, our stuff bogs us down. It does make it harder for us to get up and move. Not that you're trying to move, but right, weight, whether it's physical weight on our body, if we're carrying extra weight, right, that makes it more difficult to go up and down the stairs, to move forward, to be active. Well, it's kind of the same thing, right? It keeps us potentially from making decisions or having that time for ourselves that could be freed up to do all these other things, right? Like potentially lose weight. If we're constantly looking around or feeling bogged down by our environment, then it can be interfering with our mind, body, and spiritual health. So I want you to think about when you walk in your environment, because our environment is an integral part of our health and well-being, whether it's the stuff in our environment or the people in our environment, the things that we let into our space and our vortex do impact and influence the way we move through the world and our emotional state. Maybe it's our physical body or our spiritual body. Our environment does have an impact. So I want you to look at your space and notice how it makes you feel when you walk in. Does it feel peaceful? Or do you feel like I'm looking at all around and I don't know what to do with all this stuff? It feels heavy, it feels crowded and chaotic, right? Also think about crowded spaces or crowds where it's difficult to move around and get around to where you want to go. If you are headed, like you want to be at the front stage, at the front, by the front of the stage at the music festival, right? When it's crowded, it's more difficult to get there. So what we want to do is try to clear up and free up and lighten our load. Clutter is not just about stuff. It's about stuck energy. And what we want to do is free that energy up, move it along so that we have access to all of our faculties, right? Sometimes this same clutter can be representative of what's going on in our heads and our minds. Like our minds might be all over the place. And the clutter sort of symbolizes and mirrors back to us, okay, it's maybe time to take a breath, right? Clear up our space so that we can clear up our mind. And again, having more time to be present, having more time to sit in stillness, to connect with our breath, connect with our loved ones. Also, I want you to think about sometimes we hang on to things because of memory, right? Memories are connected to certain items, and sometimes those memories aren't always positive. We're just hanging on to maybe someone we used to be. Maybe it's time to walk into and embrace a newer, more elevated version of ourselves, right? So this is also a great time to like really like hone in, okay, is this serving me in the present? Is it going to serve me in the future? And if it is, hang on to it maybe. But if you don't think it's going to, thank it. Be appreciative of what it offered you in your life. And then again, donate. Again, I'm going to suggest donation. Find a charity that you really like and would like to support. Maybe it's if you're maybe it's family and families and children. Maybe you want to just donate to the Goodwill. Maybe again, there's multiple different organizations that you can look for. Do your research because there can be some dark sides and shadow sides to some of these organizations. So definitely, do your research and find one that really speaks and resonates to you. Sometimes this means like going through photographs. I know I definitely went through a bunch of photographs, and I gotta say, I might have one of my yearbooks. I chucked them all. There was nothing in my yearbooks that I really needed to hang on to. They were, again, one of those things that went from one house to the next, just bogging me down. One more load that I had to carry to the next spot. And they really weren't doing me any favors. If I'm dying to look through a yearbook, I'm sure I can find somebody in my town that will let me see and hunt down or peruse and go through to find one photograph. But I can't recall a one that's in that yearbook that I need. Um, so I want you to think about that. I want you to think about things that you see when you look around, like unfinished tasks, things that you would like to tackle and complete to succession. And a lot of times, again, we're coming back to like we could complete these other tasks when we aren't getting distracted by this pile or that sack of clothes. When we start to eliminate some of these things, again, so much of this is about freeing up time, which is freeing up space, which is freeing up um it's freeing up and giving us more opportunities to find ways to nurture ourselves as humans and get back in touch with who we are, the essence of who we are, and the things that we love to do, right? And that could be more time with more people. You may walk in a house and think, oh my gosh, I've got so much to do, right? It's an easy thing to do. You walk in your house and you look at this pile, and you look at that pile. And I have not perfected this. And that's why I like to redo this every January, starting on January 1st, redo it because there's a bunch of stuff I need to that I've accumulated through 2025 that I need to evaluate and then let go of what is no longer serving me. And there are things I revisit. I revisited the bin of my kids' artwork 2 or 3 years in a row, and I let go of a little bit more each time. And then in certain circumstances, I put my favorites out and took a photograph, and so I could see them all. And then they're in one photograph, and they're, archived in Snapfish. And maybe I'll go through my Snapfish photographs too one day and just eliminate them. I remember my mom was like, come over, I'm getting rid of your kids' artwork. I went through this bin. I was like, what the hell? She's kept all this stuff. I went through it once and chucked it. Stuff she'd kept for 40 years. I'm 48 almost. So I want you to just think about your clutter, and you could tackle this by room. You could tackle this by item. I'm going to start in the kitchen, then I'll head into the bathroom. Maybe I want to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marie Kondo says go through the sentimentals last. And she also puts clothes towards the end. But do not quote me on that. So, you could begin by room. I think for me, that's the easiest way. And oftentimes the kitchen is the best place for me to start because I'm less attached to items in my kitchen. I might be more attached to some of the clothes that I have. There might be a t-shirt I can't let go of. Might have holes in it, but it's because it's soft, right? Oftentimes you can find this reason or that as to why you can't let go of something. There's also a really great resource called Thread Up, which I found that again through another friend. This summer when my son got married, I ordered several dresses from there and it's consignment online. You can make a little bit of money, but they send you this bag. You can send back to them whatever items of clothing and shoes, purses, accessories that you don't want, and they will list them on their website. And you can earn a little bit of money. It's not a lot of money, but you are at least recycling in a sense, right? The items that are serving you. So again, the challenge is begins January 1st. That's tomorrow. And you hear these wild dogs I've got. I wanted to, let's see, I wanted to read a handful of tips for decluttering. To you real quick. Start small. Begin with one drawer, a single shelf, or one corner of a room. Small wins create momentum. So don't beat yourself up. One drawer at a time, okay? Follow the keep, donate, trash rule. Keep items you use and love. Donate things in good condition that you no longer need. Trash anything broken or unusable. So don't be giving away a bunch of stuff that won't work to the Goodwill. Declutter by category. Instead of tackling an entire room, now, so this one suggests it differently, sort by category, clothes, books, kitchen tools. This helps you focus and make better decisions. So for me, I do like this. If I'm going to go into the kitchen, I might just focus on my kitchen utensils. Then I might move to the Tupperware. And then I might go into the bathroom. My bathroom, I got one bathroom. It's small. So, I'm going to go through those bins and underneath that bathroom cabinet all at once. So again, this is about what works for you. And you might do some research on how can I best tackle this, right? There are so many YouTube videos out there. There's different methods of decluttering. Oh my goodness, little dogs, come on. And then of course you might already have a system that works for you, but we're trying to declutter for clarity. And then ask yourself key questions. Do I use this regularly? Does this add value to my life? Would I buy this again? Does this spark joy? I mean, this might mean going through your pajamas or even your freaking underwear and saying, you know what? These underwear are gross. They might be practical. I'm tossing them. This nightgown doesn't make me feel pretty. It's out. It's okay, right? Because I know I want to feel good. We are designed to feel good and feel pleasure and joy. And many of us don't have that. So find and keep and use the things that spark joy. Set a timer. Dedicate 15 to 30 minutes to decluttering each day. Short focus sessions prevent overwhelm and build consistency. So you can do that with your phone. You can maybe find like I'm gonna declutter for the duration of this, one of my favorite songs, whatever that is for you, find something that works. Now, this suggests now with the January specific practice, you're just doing one item on the first, 2 items on the second. So then okay, I've got to find 3 items today. I got to find 15 items today. And you might think about, okay, I know I've got a bunch of nail polish and I know I've got a bunch of nail polish I need to go through. Underneath my kitchen, my bathroom sink, then I'm going to go through maybe closer to 8, 9, or 10 because I know there could be quite a few things in there. And then you've got 8 nail polishes on their way out. So things to think about. I also would consider, if you're in the process of decluttering and clearing out, looking at the quality of the products that you have. So if you're going to go through the cleaning items underneath your sink. Maybe get rid of some of the ones that you know are a little more toxic and replace them with something less toxic. White vinegar and water and baking soda are fantastic, along with lemon essential oil or other essential oils, are fantastic all natural cleaners that cause harm to no one, not your environment, not your human body, not your pets. They're not going to um, affect you any way in a negative way. So, you might be thinking about those types of things when you're going through your personal hygiene products. Maybe you are slowly getting rid of the more toxic ones in your personal, the ones that have endocrine disruptors or known hormone disruptors. And slowly, as you do replace, you're replacing them with something a little bit healthier. Again, the Yuka app, I think Bobby approved, are great apps where you can just scan an item and they're going to give you a pretty good idea on where they rank. But you can do further research and dig a little bit deeper on your own, and you may find that you want to go so natural that you're not even using personal hygiene products or deodorant or shampoo, conditioner. Again, you got to do what works for you. I'm all about, living unapologetically as you, as your authentic self, and what might be and resonate for me may or may not resonate for you. And I think that it's important to honor that about each and every one of us. Honor that about yourself. I'm going to honor that about me. I'm going to honor that about you. So again, depending on when and how you decide to declutter, I like to start in January to at least get a huge purge out of the way. 496 items. I know every day how many items I need to get rid of or move along. And feel free to join me. I'd love to have you, kind of follow along my story on Instagram. And this is also obviously available on YouTube and Facebook. But if you want to join me on my January Declutter Challenge, I hope that you will do so. And please feel free to comment or send me a message if you would like to see the different tips that I have created for decluttering and the January Declutter Challenge. I hope you have a fantastic New Year's Eve on this December 31st, 2025. And let's welcome in the new year with a clearer mind, body, and spirit.